What's up, this is Greg with sportsrehabexpert.com. Today we're going to be discussing if you should be heel striking while you're walking or running, or is it just going to cause more injuries and problems down the line. Now, this information is coming from someone who has a doctorate of physical therapy, but also someone who has ran track collegiately and competed at the Division II level, earning All-American honors. I do this not to toot my own horn, but just to tell you that I have clinical background, a research background, and a practical background. And that's why I have so much confidence talking about this particular subject matter. So to simply answer the question, is heel striking bad? No, it's not. But there are going to be some caveats that I'm going to explain. Now, first off, I want you to view heel striking on a spectrum. And depending on how fast you are moving, you're going to have varying degrees of heel striking. The slower you move, aka walking, the more heel strikes are going to occur. The faster you are moving, aka sprinting, the less to no heel strike should be occurring. And I just want to be clear that the back of the heel is not heel striking. That is a braking force. So we never want to be hitting the back of the heel really at any point in time. Now, research has shown that shorter ground contact times leads to less injury, both while walking and running. So if you're one of those individuals who mopes around, trudges around as you walk, you might want to think twice about doing that. You might want to actually start walking with intent or in purpose. Now, as I said earlier, it's 100% normal to heel strike, but where you heel strike is very much important. It's not on the back of the heel, it's not on the inside of the heel, it's on the outside of the heel and ideally on top of the heel. But after we land on top of the heel, on the outside aspect of the foot, we're going to roll to whole foot contact and finish through all 5 toes at push-off. The people who generally have problems are those people who hit the back of the heel, hit the back inside aspect of the heel, or maybe they do hit the outside of the foot on top of the foot, but then they stay on the outside aspect of the foot and they never get to full foot contact. Or they come crashing down and they spend the rest of their time on the inside of the foot finishing off just the big toe and not all 5 toes equally. Doing this, spending all your time on the inside aspect of the foot or the outside aspect of the foot, creates a pressure issue over the long term. Or in the case of a high amount of force applied, problems in the short term where there's a significant amount of force applied in a very focal area that leads to a specific mechanism of injury. Or again, a lower level load that is applied frequently over the course of a longer duration that creates a problem over the long run. So when you do walk and you do land on the top of the heel, on the outside aspect of that heel, you want to think about kissing the heel to the ground and quickly moving to the midfoot, whole foot contact, and quickly transitioning to all 5 toes at push-off. Again, this lowers ground contact time, which has been repeatedly shown in research to decrease injuries. So not only are you paying attention to how you pressurize the foot as you walk, but are also paying to how quickly you transition over top and through the foot. This feeling of how the foot is pressurized should feel very crisp or like a bouncy ball hitting the ground, which is quick coming off the ground, as opposed to a beach ball hitting the ground, which is slow and trudgy on the ground. What this does is it effectively increases your cadence, which again has been shown to decrease injuries and injury rate, and it quickens your ground contact time. It doesn't mean you're necessarily walking faster, you're just quickening your turnover. And to give you an analogy of how this helps is think about stepping on a bed of nails. That would be much more comfortable than stepping on one specific nail. Neither might be too comfortable, but people can lay on a bed of nails. You wouldn't want to lay on just one nail because all the pressure is applying in one focal area under a high amount of load with a low surface area. And then once you understand that concept, it's really just a matter about how fast you are going. Again, walking is going to be on top of the heel. As we start moving faster, we're going to get more towards a mid-foot landing. And as we turn to sprinting, we're going to get just ball of foot, and the heel will never even come close to touching the ground. So these are just arbitrary numbers just to give you an example or an idea of what I'm talking about. There's no research behind this. This is just anecdotal data from my personal experience. If you're walking or if you're jogging at a 10-minute mile pace or slower, you're going to be landing on top of the heel, especially if you're walking. Sometimes if you're jogging, you can still get away with a mid strike if you're going 10-minute mile pace or slower, but most of the time if you're going 10-minute mile pace or slower, you're going to be landing on top of the heel on the outside, not the inside of the heel. Now once you start dropping below a 6-minute mile pace or just transitioning into actual sprinting, then you're starting to be on just the forefoot. You'll still land in the outside aspect of the forefoot and then come to full foot flat contact. The heel is off the ground, but the full foot will be touching the ground, and you finish through all 5 toes again. So those are just arbitrary numbers just to give you an idea or a guide. Ultimately, you need to select what feels best for you and realize if you move too quickly to a forefoot strike, you're going to be very Achilles dominant. So a lot of people who aren't used to a forefoot strike and start doing a forefoot strike start developing some type of Achilles issue, especially if they move too quickly into that transition. The other thing you'll notice if you're not used to a forefoot strike, or if you're moving too slow and you're moving towards a forefoot strike, your foot's going to feel kind of slappy on the ground. And it's not going to feel like we discussed earlier, where it should feel crisp off the ground. So sometimes the best way of looking at this is, how does my foot sound on the ground? And sound will tell you a lot about your ground contact times. Someone who needs to move more towards a midfoot strike, generally they have more of a louder, impactful sound because they're striking their heel while they're running at a pretty decent clip. And because of this, it sends a lot of pressure up to the knee, and usually they'll have knee pain issues if there's too much heel contact strike at too fast of a pace. And inevitably someone's going to ask about shoes. Well, if your shoe has a high heel and a lot of cushion there, then a lot of people will bias to, again, that backside heel strike because they have so much cushion there. And as a result, if there's a lot of cushion at your heel, a lot of people who rely on that heavy heel strike tend to have knee issues. Again, someone who moves right to a zero drop shoe and starts using a forefoot strike when they're not used to a forefoot strike whatsoever generally start developing Achilles issue. So whatever you decide to do, and as you start to work on optimizing your foot strike and your ground contact times, because it is important in order to reduce injury rates, you need to make small changes over the course of time and think about optimizing over the course of time instead of shifting from one extreme to the other extreme right away.
Now, I know I've thrown a lot at you, so I'm just going to summarize the video real quick here. Is that number one, heel striking is not bad, but it needs to be on top of the heel, not on the back side of the heel. Backside is braking force. On top of the heel is normal for walking. You're going to land on the outside aspect of that heel, roll through the whole foot, and roll to your midfoot. You want to spend as little amount of time as possible on the heel, so think about kissing the heel and moving through your foot as quickly as possible. This will help your cadence quicken, and this will reduce injuries. Finally, we want to see that you finish through all 5 toes. This will lead to the correct direction of synchrony of motion from right leg to left leg, which is what I've drawn out here in this picture. Now, the scope of this picture is way beyond this short video here to really understand the biomechanics behind this. But the main theme of these pictures is you want to see the direction of motion to be in line with one another, or moving in sync, moving in alternating action from right to left, left to right, and back and forth. When you see a reverse action or direction of force that is moving away from one another, which is the red lines on here, then that is going to create a less efficient pressure through the system, less efficient mechanics, and the dead giveaway if you see this happening is when someone's heel stays on the inside as they swing through their leg, or they continuously toe out. This person is not alternating when both toes point out from one another and their heels point inward from one another. You should see the landing foot landing straight and the toeing off back leg heel moving away.
Hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And if you'd like help specifically going over this and me watching you run, giving you suggestions, feedback, or developing a plan specifically for you so you can run with less pain and for longer periods of time from a performance standpoint, reach out to me, Greg at sportsrehabexpert.com, and we can talk about how I can be of assistance to help you out.